Hello and welcome back to another video of Limbus Company. Today I wanted to talk about the new egos that just released with the rest of the Battle Pass, starting with the Skin Prophet for Sinclair. As you can see, it's a negative coin with 26 roll, then an attack weight of 3. It's pretty good. It's got the same thing as Faust's version of this with the attack weight increase for Lust Resin. And on hit, if target has no burn, inflict 4 burn, and then inflict another 4 burn. And on Tails hit, if target has 10 plus burn, inflict 1 attack power down and 1 defense power down. So clearly, with this skill being a negative coin, it really just wants to be run on Enclair. Like, I'd say usually you're probably going to get more value out of this ego than Lantern. But Lantern does add some versatility, being a slash instead of blunt, so it gives him an extra damage type, which could be useful. Corrosion version is basically exactly the same, just with a higher number, and instead of the attack power and defense down, you inflict Lust Fragility next turn if they have 10 plus burn, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good Corrosion version, I think. And the passive, Prophecy of Ruin, on heads hit with a Lust Affinity skill, lower this unit and the target's SP by 4. Does not work against targets without Sanity. Gain 5 Lust Ego resource on kill with a Lust Affinity skill. So this last line is just a way to basically have an easier time refunding the resources that you spent to do this ego, because you'll get back the 5 lust that you spent to use this skill. And the first one is just a little nice benefit for Enclair. Like, you pretty much only ever want to run this ego on Enclair. It's pretty much useless on any of his others. Well, not necessarily useless, being an AoE, it's usable, but it wants to be run on Enclair. Moving on to the next one, we have Effervescent Corrosion for Rodion.
꽤 끈적거리거든. 절대 피할 수 없을걸?
It's a 20 to 25, 2 attack weight. If main target has 50% HP, attack weight plus 1, and 75 attack weight plus 1. So the healthier the target is, the more AoE it does, which is basically means you want to use this ego very early on in a fight to get the extra attack weight, because if you're using it later, it'll lose it. It inflicts 3 tremor and 7 tremor count. Inflict 2 bind next turn on heads hit and burst tremor. So it's a tremor based ego. 7 tremor count's actually really good. It can be a little bit difficult to keep tremor count up, especially with all the identities that just eat it all. So it kind of feels like this wants to be Rhyme Shank, but for tremor instead of sinking, which is fitting considering it's literally in the same slot. So you either run this if you're running a tremor team, or Rhyme Shank if you're running a sinking team. Corrosion version, basically the same. Heal, defense level down, burst tremor. Pretty average stuff. The passive is kind of interesting, not gonna lie. With on heads hit with a pierce skill, inflict 1 bind 2 times per turn. Now the thing that's interesting about this is, as of the recording, Rodion only has 2 identities that have a pierce skill. The first being her N-Corp identity with her skill 1, and the second being her Rose Spanner identity with her skill 2. So basically those are the only 2 identities that she has that will even activate this passive ever, because none of her egos are pierce either. They're either slash or blunt. So basically you can only really run this on Rose Spanner because she benefits from the tremor and the passive. So this identity, this ego is really centered around her Rose Spanner identity. The next ego, Blind Obsession for Ryōshu.
이 파도 속에서 움직일 수 있는 오직 나다. 깨어져라.
(18 to 24), attack weight of 3. That's pretty much the same as Red Eyes, I think. Before attack, gain 4 poise. Turn end, gain 2 poise for every unit defeated by this skill. On hit, gain 2 charge count. On crit, gain 2 charge count. Corrosion version, 30 with a negative 12 coin. Same thing. Gain 4 poise, consume 2 charge count to gain 1 poise, max of 10. Turn end, gain plus 4 charge count for every unit defeated by this skill. Gain plus 1 poise count on hit, and on crit at 10 plus poise, gain 30% critical damage. This skill seems a bit bipolar. It wants to both fuel poise and charge at the same time, which is a little odd. She only has 1 poise identity and 1 charge identity, and neither of them really need the other status. I mean, her LCCB identity with the poise, there's no way to gain charge, so like this entire line on her corrosion is basically pointless, because she'll basically never activate it because she'll never have any charge. It will do a decent job of gaining her charge. Like if you hit 3 enemies, you'll gain 6 charge, which does an okay job of fueling her skill 3 for W Corp, but you could also just use a skill 2 and that would do the same thing. Passive, Dream Devouring. On crit with a Pride Affinity skill, gain 1 poise count, 3 times per turn. It does seem to want to be used on her LCCB identity more than the W Corp identity though. It seems more focused on poise than charge, which begs the question why it even has charge in the first place, as it's basically redundant. There's no real point for it to have this charge at all. It should just be focused entirely on the poise. And finally, the last one, Blind Obsession for Ishmael, the first ever WA type ego in the game.
총원, 조명이 전멸하는 저곳으로. 파도가 모든 것을 쳐부술 거다.
(20 to 35) roll at the 7 attack weight. Quite impressive. After attack, heal 25 SP for 4 allies with the least SP. On hit, gain 6 charge count. On hit, give +2 poise count to 1 random ally. After attack, apply 1 pierce up and 1 damage up to 4 allies with the highest SP. Interesting. So one thing that's notable about this is with the on hit gain 6 charge count means with one use of this ego she'll be at max charge, usually. So it's just it's free mind whips for all of eternity with this ego. which is quite powerful. Don't get me wrong. Also, this heal 25 SP for 4 allies, I think it should apply to Ishmael too, which means that the sanity cost isn't actually 35, but is more like 10. And it only really heals 3 allies because it'll probably always be healing Ishmael too. Seems powerful, especially if she's moving first. There are a lot of very good Pierce skills, so this Pierce power up and 1 damage up would be very good on them. Just doing a little bit more damage. Corrosion, same thing, 35, 7. On hit, heal 3% of max HP on self. Gotta remember it's doing it 7 times, so that's a very significant amount of health recovery. Gain +1 poise and +1 poise count on hit. Pretty significant. On hit, inflict 3 pride fragility this turn and next turn. There are quite a few identities with pretty powerful pride skills. Ryōshu's skill 2 is very strong. Plus she'd be inflicting slash fragility with it. So she'd be doing like 50% extra damage with that attack, and that would be crazy. After attack, apply 2 damage up this turn and next turn to 4 allies with the least SP. That is crazy on characters like Ryōshu. Their pride skills are going to be hitting really hard. There's quite a few significant pride skills that are like really good. I mean, the new Middle Dawn skill 3 is pride, so that's gonna be benefiting from this a lot too. This is gonna be a very powerful nuke skill, I think. Of course, it is kind of expensive. 2 Wrath, 3 Gloom, 3 Pride, 3 Envy. It is very expensive, but pretty fitting for a WoW, I think. Not something you can be spamming every turn, but when you do use it, it's gonna give you a lot of benefit. And her passive, Tumultuous Voyage. At the end of the turn, inflict 5 sinking to 1 other ally with the lowest HP. Apply 1 haste and 3 offense level up next turn. This is a very thematic passive. That's pretty much all I can say. Screw over one of your allies to buff yourself. Very fitting, I think. And yeah, that's basically all of them. Bye.